No, I ended up passing out about 6:30 or so, 7 o'clock last night. Somewhere in there, 9 o'clock, something like that. I don't really remember. I just know I set my alarm for 2:30 so I can get up early enough and go ahead and get at least the master bedroom mopped up real quick, and then try to sweep and mop the kitchen and dining room too again, just to make sure it's to make sure at least it's somewhat presentable. You know, it's still a little bit cluttered and all that. It's just, yeah. No, it's like 4 a.m. Still doing my little wake up bullshit. So I come put on the hoodie and the Carhartt and step outside in my shorts and Jesus shoes. Although it's hard, you guys won't be able to see it, but out here with the lights off, it's near absolute pitch dark because we don't have any nearby cities. The closest thing we have is out in Klamath, so there's no light pollution out here. So when it comes to seeing the stars and everything, get them real good. You can see them real good. It's kind of why I wish I had a wide angle lens and such, because then I could start getting night shots too, better ones, instead of these weird blurry moon shots and stuff. No, I'm still exhausted. I'm still burned out in every aspect. It's just, I've been completely mind fucked. It's like been gang banged. Okay, there's Momo and Coda. That was kind of weird. I mean, I know my tummy growled here just a second because I didn't even eat dinner. I skipped dinner and just, yeah. Figure I'll try and make some breakfast, but well, I guess that was my tummy making that noise. I'm used to a different type of tummy growl. But oh god. No, I'm just I get things ready for when the house gets showed. And if the place gets, if an offer goes to get put in, then I know here, at least on the front porch, I'll be able to take this stuff out and throw it in the truck, and I'll at least to get it, to take it down a few miles to the little local dump or whatever you call it. And then some of this other stuff that I've got here, like the cardboard boxes and shit like that I still got, and the old vanity, the old wood vanity, I can just drag that out to the fire pit and just burn it. And just I'm burned out on all this and tired. I've been at this, I've been working on this house and this property and my relationship, everything alone for the last 4 or 5 years, and I can't take it anymore. I'm really hoping that this is like the last showing or whatever that I have to deal with, in the house be gone. Get told, yeah, there's an offer, they want it, they know what's going on, that type of thing. Because I'm ready to put in for another home. There's still one that's still sitting on top of my list, and of all things, it's right in the very town that originally drew me wanting to move out in that direction anyways. It's barely got a half acre though. That's the only downside for me. So I'm still watching on other possibilities. And then there's another one that I looked at that it has a I guess they call it a sitting pond. It's a koi pond or something. It's been drained, but it's something that can be redone. And then there's like a little extra building type thing. This house and this little other building, they were built in like 1917. That makes me think of the Dropkick Murphys song, The Green Fields of France. I think that's what it's called. The Fields of France, Green Fields of France. But I know they didn't write it. They covered it. It's an old song, I think. But anyways, that one's got a little over a half acre. And part of the yard looks like a little retreat. It's actually kind of neat looking. And then the smaller building, it's like a little office, and you go in, and it reminds me of an old 1900s, like maybe what you would have seen at that time, somebody's like office space with the concrete fireplace or whatever in there, and the old wood like desk and shit in there. I mean, it looks really fucking neat in there. But I mean, no, I'm trying to keep myself distracted, and I'm trying not to completely go crazy here alone. I had read this post here when I woke up, and yeah, it made sense, but it made sense only in one way to me, and it still wasn't good. It's actually still a selfish thing, in a sense, on how we deal with people's traumas. When we deal with head trauma or leg trauma or a gun wound, those types of things, physical traumas, we deal with it immediately. We deal with it so that person doesn't have to suffer from it or even die. But then when it comes to trauma from other things, that it's psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual, all that stuff, non-physical trauma, we basically isolate people and alienate them some more when they were already dealing with what they were dealing with. To end up with that trauma, they were stuck dealing with alone. And so when you hear people, basically tell you, you got to do it on your own, make you stronger, all this stuff. Yes, it'll make you stronger. But I also noticed that those people who do that, they become a bit colder and bitter, because they were in the same shoes as that person who's dealing with trauma and dealing with, whatever it is that psychologically is breaking them down, everything. They were in that person's shoes, and they too were seeking help, and they had nobody to turn to. And then they sit there and they go, well, I did it. Well, I did this alone. I'm stronger now and on. You might have gotten through it and to a degree became stronger, but you also ended up gaining a bitterness and being cold, because you now realize, because nobody was there for you. That's where you become kind of bitter and cold to the situation, and you start telling people, do it yourself. You can do it yourself. And you pretty much push a person that's gone through that trauma to keep living that trauma longer than they need to, just like that person did. Yeah, it might make them stronger, but I think it makes them stronger in not necessarily a good way. I can't say bad, but it's not really a good way, because now you've got this bitterness in you that when met with that type of situation again, that bitterness is going to come out, and you're going to make it very clear to people, you know what, I can't rely on you. I can't rely on anybody. I'm doing this myself. That's why I'm not, that type of thing. And that's when we start alienating and isolating ourselves when dealing with that. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes It's not just sometimes, but humans are sociable beings. We weren't created to be alone. We were created to have a partner, somebody that we can rely on in hard times, not abandon them. That type of thing. We were created to, in hard times, we shouldn't be pushing people away. I've been doing that. I'm having to rethink my actions too. And even when I'm saying this is because I'm even thinking about my own actions too on things, not just how other people are treating situations. But I think as humans, we need to rethink how we deal with non-physical trauma that people have to face in life. We have to rethink how we deal with it and how we cope with it and how we tell others to cope and deal with it. That's weird. The clock was at 11:11 right as I said that. But some people can pull through their shit fairly quickly and easy and bounce back fairly quickly and easy. I have to bounce back faster and faster each time. That type of thing, just by nature. What people don't see is like back when my ex-wife had first left me for someone else. This was back when my younger son was only maybe 1 or 2. And when she left me, then I locked myself basically in my apartment for several months. I wouldn't leave. I'd leave long enough to go to the store to get food, go home, and I just wouldn't leave. I'd just lock myself in. If it wasn't for my brother Jess pulling me out of that place, I would have locked myself probably into that apartment and never came out again unless the rent got too high, that type of thing. And I more than likely would have eventually in time would have landed myself on the street because I had nobody to turn to. I had nobody. And if it wasn't for him pulling me out of that rut, just being a friend, like, hey, let's go hang out, let's go do something, that type of shit. I probably would have allowed my life experiences to kill me on its own a long time ago. Before I even found out that I was on spectrum. Coda! Come on, Pooh Bear. No, when I go to sleep, I have to be careful what I think about when I go to sleep, because otherwise I'll wake up. Like if I go to sleep angry, thinking about something that was bothering me, I will end up stewing on it in my sleep somehow. Because I'll have dreams that I remember. I'm starting to have dreams again, which is weird. But for most part, though, somehow, like when I go to sleep or whatever, I would stew on shit, and then I wake up even more pissed off. So it's like I have to retrain. Just have to, but I've had to because excuse me. It's actually how I wrote my first book, and as I just retrained my brain to be somewhere else, basically, in a totally different place. And that way, when I woke in the morning, I wasn't still thinking about whatever it was that was bothering me. Sorry, I'm just trying to take my jacket off. But as is, I couldn't help but think about. That's part of what causes me to even miss my brother even a little more. And because he was one of the few people that he saw that when it got to a certain point, he was there. He was there. That was one of the people that taught me too. That when one of your friends are suffering and they're going through hell, you don't alienate them longer. You give them some time, to kind of process things, and then bounce in here and there to try, go spend time with them, hang out with them, that type of stuff. And that's what he would do until it got to the point where we're going out, hanging out, basically all the time, to where it made that healing process easier and faster. You're still gonna be dealing with a lot of things personally, things that might not directly help or whatever. But you're not sitting there doing it alone. You don't even have to sit there and talk to whoever with, like when my brother would come over and all, when I was going through that shit. We didn't sit and talk about what I was going through. We didn't sit and, make that a focus. Every now and then, he'd just, be like, things going all right in that department type thing, just not exactly in that format, but he would check, do that type of stuff here and there. Because of the way I got treated by my current ex and everything, and the way I got so heavily alienated by a lot of old friends because of where my kids were involved, I got to the point that I started shutting people away from me. Like, I started pushing people away more because it's like, no. Coda, be nice to Gordon, or was he eating your food? He was eating his food. But I had to learn what real friendship was from my brother Nate and my brother Jess and a couple others. There's only like 3 or 4 people. My sister Heather was one of them. When people are told, do this stuff of I just don't want to deal with drama, or I want to avoid drama, or I don't like drama, that type of stuff. Those are the same people that when they're going through it, they do one of 2 things. They either, kind of like myself, they kind of start to push people away, isolate themselves more, which taking time to yourself is good. But when you're taking it or being forced in a situation that you're doing it 24/7, it does more damage than it does good. It's like picking you up early in the morning, right after you wake up. Your head's still in somewhat of that sleepy fog. You haven't even gone to the bathroom yet. You're hungry. And someone just picks you up, drops you right in the middle of the woods, and you've got no phone, no nothing, nobody, nothing to turn to call for help. And you're stuck there, and you have no idea how you got there, why the fuck you're there, what the fuck happened. All you know is that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing your best and giving your all, and for some reason you got left right there. And now you're standing in the middle of nowhere, looking around going, what the fuck do I do? Yeah, you might know how to survive because that's what you were stuck doing. But when it comes to turning for help, or just a friend, a face, anything like that, all you've got is a bunch of trees to look to, and that's what it feels like. And those trees are people. I just think we have to a degree, we have to rethink how we treat these types of traumas on people, because this isn't good. It's not healthy. It's not proper. What one thing might work for one person will not always work for the next. Some people do good when they isolate themselves, but let's challenge them to isolate themselves for more than 30 days. We call that a punishment in the prison systems. A lot of people who are already gone through some form of abuse or some form of abuse on their own. They were already in some form of mental prison. And so when those within their circle sort of distance themselves more, and that causes that person to go, you know what? No, I can't. No, I'm just going to start pushing people away now. Now I'm going to push you back twice as far. Even when they know that what they genuinely need is at least that one friend. And that's something that I've been missing where my brother's concerned. And even where my sister Heather's concerned. Because when my brother Jess wasn't around, my sister Heather was there. They taught me what friendship was. And so I've always tried to be that kind of friend for other people. I even tried to be that for my own relationship. But it's like, I can't keep giving what is not returned. You know, back in high school, we had this. It's a real quarter, but it was a joke quarter. We'd end up buying a smoke from our friend for 25 cents. And for the first few weeks, that same quarter kept being passed back and forth between the same group of us. So we thought it'd be funny to just take a Sharpie and color one side of it, so we knew that it was that quarter. And this quarter kept rotating in exchange for a smoke from your friend. That type of thing. Here, can I buy a smoke from you? Here's a quarter. And it was that same quarter that kept rotating. That was a process in my head that I can look to as an example of reciprocity, that give and take, that give and return type thing. We don't do that with really anything else in life. People are like, it's like, here's the quarter, here's half a cigarette. That type of thing. Next time around, here's another quarter, here's a quarter of a cigarette. They give less and less and less each time that they're getting the same, that they're receiving the same amount. Eventually, it starts turning into, oh, you want a full smoke? Well, I need $1 now. Because, you know, prices have gone up. That's where the excuses and that type of shit starts coming in. Now, I'm going to charge you $1 for you to get this. So you're giving even more to get even less. And that's how I've noticed how people these days, men and women both, treat their relationships. And that's why a lot of them are failing, because one of them is giving everything they got, and every fucking time they're giving more and more and more and more, while the other one is giving back less and less and less. And then when that starts to affect the person that is losing everything, once they lost it all, people proceed to punish them more. And it's not always intentional. It's just because I think people lost their genuine compassion for each other, their genuine compassion for life, their genuine love of life, their all that, even for other people. If we were meant to be alone as a species, we would, like, there'd only be probably just a handful of humans left. We'd be more like, well, I guess you could say we'd be more like a lion or some of these different animals that the only time that they interact with others of their own species is to breed. And then they're back into isolation, you know, like tigers and shit like that. We weren't made for that. There's a reason why humans and dogs are a perfect match and all that stuff, because personality-wise, dogs are very similar to humans, just like, you know, the rest of the primate family in essence. But even then, there are things that we see in primates that, yeah, motor skills, look, physical form, all that stuff is similar to human. That family social format to me when it comes to human is more that of like a dog. And yeah. So it's like, to me, that loyalty for your family and your loved ones is huge. And when you have to break that loyalty because of the way they treat you, you're then starting to add to that abuse on yourself, because now you're punishing yourself by restricting your loyalties to them and others because of that experience. If you go through life cheating, you can't expect you can't ask yourself and wonder why nothing works out always for the best for you, and why it ends up being hell and feeling like shit. If you notice, if that's how you get through life, there'd probably be a lot more billionaires in the world than there are right now. If cheating, manipulating, lying, and stealing got you somewhere in life, then majority of the people who do that wouldn't end up landing in prison. They'd end up in places like the Guinness Book of World Records. They'd end up in, getting Pulitzer Prizes and shit like that. They'd be getting, they would be the superstars of the planet. No, that's not how you get through life. That's not how you treat your fellow human beings for your personal gain. And if all you're going to be doing is gold digging, then I think the biggest problem that we've lost really is our compassion and empathy, sympathy, all those things for our fellow human being. But we expect that treatment for us when we're going through it. And that's just as a general statement for all people. There are people out there, no matter how much they hurt, they're still going to care about others, and they're still going to be there for others. It's like, I had a friend ask me send me a message last night. I didn't know who it was at first because I had lost a lot of contacts here, a lot of numbers and contacts with people since all this has been going on, where my current ex is concerned with my relationship. I lost contact with a lot of people over the years. And I had someone message me a little while back going, "Hey, I'm missing you, just want to check in on you." And I didn't even know who it was. I just sent them an emoji back with the blushing smiley face thing. I didn't know who it was. Well, then they messaged me again last night, and it's been like a month or something like that since that other one. 2 months, a month, 2 months. I didn't know who the fuck it was. Well, then they messaged me again, and I explained to them. I was like, "Look, I've been dealing with a lot of shit. I've lost a lot of contacts. I've lost a lot of numbers, everything. Because anytime I was to talk to anybody other than very specific people, I would be accused of being a cheater, or I would be accused of being abusive, or all this other shit. So I don't know who's talking, and I just want to let you know I'm sorry about that. I don't even know if, for all I know, you don't even know me either, and you're messaging somebody else, so I don't know who this is." And they turned around and told me who it was, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, they ended up asking me advice because they're going, I'm going through a conundrum because somebody who is extremely important to me for the last 25 years has, come back into my life. And, and I'm not sure what the reasoning behind it is or what to do. We've been talking and all that stuff, and, and it sounded like both people were interested, but then when they turned around and admitted that the guy was married, I said, you need to, I said, well, I think there is a reason behind this. I said, what, I was like, in the sense of, obviously, if God's bringing you two back together after so long, I was like, there's a purpose to that, but you have to respect that marriage that's involved. I was like, marriage is fucking sacred. I was like, you need to respect the boundaries of not just the friendship, but you need to respect the boundaries of that marriage that's there. I said, it sounds to me like your friend and I is got 1 foot out, 1 foot in, and you don't need the karma that he's building up for himself by being unfaithful. And the real love that you can give for him is to not pursue him. It's like you need to, I was like, keep it in that friend stage. And I said, and he decides to take the other foot out and all that and dissolve his marriage. That's then at that point, you know, it for most part remains between him and his wife. You know, that marriage, that relationship between those two people. I was like, he's building bad karma right now, and you don't want any piece of that. You don't want to adopt any of it. I was like, marriage is very much a sacred thing. And I was like, I take that shit seriously. I was like, that's why I won't marry someone if they're going to be deceptive, lying, unfaithful, disloyal, anything like that. Even if I pick up on it, I won't fucking marry you until we work through that problem, so that way we can have a good start to a marriage. I don't believe in starting a marriage while in the middle of a bunch of fucking problems. Marriage doesn't fix problems. A lot of times it makes it worse for people because now they're feeling even more stuck and they're fighting even harder against each other to fix the same problems. But no, I said, I did explain to her, I was like, no, you need to stay friends. You need to respect that. I was like, you might be getting taught a lesson in what patience is called and to avoid temptations. I was like, if that person is that important to you and all, and you do love him, I was like, the best love you can give him is to not allow him to overstep those boundaries while married. To allow and all that, to back off, to not do anything to even sway him to ruin his marriage. That he needs to come to that himself. He can't influence that shit. Whether you know whether she knew his wife or not, she only gets one part of that relationship when it comes from him, unless she was to take the time and go look and, you know, maybe even ask questions, you know, where his wife, you know, even, you know, ask questions to find out, okay, what's going on her side of the situation. For all you know, they both are doing shit that all it takes is them just fucking, instead of turning their backs to each other and proceeding to do their shit, and that's just to simply turn to each other and fix their shit and end up having a functioning marriage again. So it's like you don't want to draw that away and knowingly or unknowingly be a piece of the reason of why a marriage failed. Because you turned yourself into a temptation for that person. I have a huge problem when it comes to cheating and disloyalty. That's why, like I said, I won't marry someone if they're incapable of communicating and they're being shady, let alone they've already been dishonest and disloyal. Then I know the best they can do is communicate to work through it, especially if they genuinely gave a shit. Not just go find someone else to fuck to trying to forget. Fucking forget. You're not going to forget. And no, you're going to carry that baggage now because you created more problems for yourself, because now you're going to have to go, did I just whore myself out to hurt someone because I didn't want to fucking face the shit I did? So no, I take a lot of that shit very seriously. And I had to learn even from my own experience, and that part of that was from long time ago. This was back right after I was right when I was right before right after I turned 21. I used to go and hang out with my buddy Steve-O and these other two girls. And yeah, we used to hang out a lot. This is when I was still young, dumb, and full of you know what, basically. And I was still into the fucking drugs and shit. This is why I say that not even drugs justify your actions. Because I consciously knew what I was doing, especially when after I, ended up realizing that one of them was married after I hooked up with them. They're like, yeah, I'm married and all that stuff. And what made it hard was I was the other man, and I ended up getting put in a position that I got to know her husband. And her husband was a good fucking man. He worked his fucking ass off for a woman that fucking straight up used the shit out of him, breadcrumbed their fucking marriage and all that. I watched what happened with that marriage. And I had to carry that guilt for a long time, knowing that I was a part of that. It hurt me a lot for that relationship to end, but I'm happy that it ended. Because that man didn't deserve to go through what he fucking went through. And when it came down to it, I didn't deserve to have my emotions, my heart, my mind, all of that being fucked with by a woman that had no loyalty whatsoever to her marriage, to the relationship, to anything. And I sat there and I was like, I was in this being young, stupid, and under the understanding that they were separated. No, they weren't. That lasted for about a year. That about a year there, and the entire time I felt like shit, and I dove deeper into the dope at that time, which added to the problem. It was about a month or so before everything ended and all that, I had started going clean. I kept telling her, I was like, you need to go clean. Like, together or not, you need to go clean. This is ruining lives. There's kids involved, everything. This is the person that my brother went and got his drugs from that eventually killed him. So yes, I have a lot of guilt on my shoulders that I do carry and deal with on a regular basis. Yet I also have had to look at those experiences and even those dumb choices, not just learn from them, but that's what I sometimes have to draw from to explain to others, don't do this, because I know from experience what it does to people from both sides of that situation. The fact that had happened to me before that, when it came to my younger son's mom, and when it came to, at that time it was just my younger son's mom, and then that's when I slipped there, but yeah. She was the one that also turned out to be not just a dope dealer, but she turned out to be a prostitute too. So yeah, her husband and I got played big time. We got played big time, and I feel really bad for the guy because he's a fucking really good guy. And I had to learn from that experience, and instead of turning around and repeating that shit and getting off on that, I watched what it was doing to other people, and not only that, I paid attention to what it was doing to me. And so I knew from that point on, I was like, no, this is not ever happening again. That was one of the drawn reasons why I went clean. It took me about a week to get clean, and I will never on this at least explain to people how I did it, and it's not the way I would say to do it, because it's not.
I've had to draw on a lot of experiences, not just from my own stupid decisions at that time period, because it was right there towards the end of high school, right into the beginning 8 years of what I would have been college, where I made my dumbest choices in life, and that was also during the time period I was doing the most drugs. And I learned then that neither one, it doesn't fucking benefit you at all. It just hurts a lot of people. I could have went cold. I could have went bitter. I could have went angry and just kept doing what I was doing because I thought it felt good or it was fun or it was adventurous. It's a new addiction. The way these petty fucking arguments are, no, it's fucking wrong. I got my karma through with my marriage with that situation. Even though after that relationship, I ended up in one other one before my younger son's mom came back into my life and we got married. But again, that relationship there, I was left again the same exact way. Her cheating on me with another man and going to be with another man. Instead of being a prostitute or becoming one. Then my wife did the same thing. And when it came to my marriage, as much as it hurt and it bothered me, it took me. I didn't get complete closure and all, but I got enough understanding and all that I've been, I still deal with some of the healing from it. I still have my wonders at times and questions, but for most part, I can talk about a lot of that without it really actually bothering me. Just like if I sat and talked to you about things that I did during the shitty days, I can talk about a lot of that without it bothering me or making me want to go back and go do drugs again. It doesn't fucking do that to me. But I have already been able, and that was a long time ago, while during this relationship, I had already come to that realization that I had went through some karma right there when it came to my marriage because of my involvement of being drug into, not necessarily drug, but tempted into a relationship with a married woman. So that came back around, and I recognized that. And when it comes down to it, it kind of came back around threefold. It's just the person that was doing this to me, she built up some really fucked up bad karma. Really bad karma. There's nothing I can look back on in my life that can actually really compare to that, and I'm not even trying to make a comparison. It's just we have to take accountability for our actions, whether it's through a judicial system, that form of karma, or via God and karma itself. It's going to come back. That's where I've developed that belief that everything ends where it begins. Or where it began. If you start something cheating, it's going to end with you cheating. I gave everything I could to my wife and even to my current I gave her fucking everything till I had nothing left. To the point it changed me in a way that I'm not even the same person. I will never be necessarily the same person I was in any format. I used to be a really happy person. You wouldn't see me without a smile on my face. You wouldn't see me out there, basically just being there for people. I had my entire spirit destroyed through this relationship. This was a very soul-shattering experience that I went through. Not just fucking reality-breaking and mind-breaking, that type of thing. This fucking destroyed me in every which way possible. And where I thought I'd already learned a lesson from past experience, it seems like sometimes that comes back around. Otherwise, I was in this situation because I already understood what happens and had already gone through this before, twice. I feel like to a degree also that I'm supposed to be a karmic lesson for my ex. Because I learned that you don't do the shit that other people do like that. You don't abuse people that way. And I even learned that even from my own stupid decisions, even though I was never that way. That one choice that I made, especially to be with somebody who is married and to continue it after finding out, I had to answer for that in some way, shape, or form. And I did. Through my following relationship after that. And then obviously with my marriage at that point, because the more I start thinking about it, even now, it's like, yeah, it's obvious that that's what that was. But the way I got left by my wife, there's nothing I could have done. I deserve that. She had to answer for her stupid choices and her karma. Because after she left me the way she did, yeah, certain different aspects of her life may have gotten better, but I think a lot of it too is she might have got more bitter too in the process, a little more holding back, that type of thing. Like from talking with our son and all that, like part of her's still there, but she's not all there anymore. Like she's lost herself in this process. Why? Because she's had to answer for her karma for what she did to her own fucking marriage. And what do I mean by that? Up until the current man that she's with now, every man that she'd been with after she left me in that hospital like that turned out to be a child molester. One of them abused her kids. Her karma drug her own children into it. And from the sounds of things, she finally found someone that's actually a decent, good guy. And I just hope that sticks and he doesn't turn out to be another pedo. My current ex, on the other hand, what she's done, and the fact that for at the very minimum the last 4 or 5 years of our relationship, and that's as far as I know, it's been nothing. I was used. She admitted it. I was being used. She manipulated me. She lied to me. Yes, I'm on a fucking flat out mental roller coaster. I hit my part of my bottom yesterday and day before. And I can't say that that's going to be the last time. It's not easy to bounce back especially when you're more alone than you've been before, because somebody made sure that you had nobody to turn to before they fucking hurt you really bad. And there's not a word in any language that could explain the level of damage that she caused in doing what she's done. And I think the only people who can understand what I mean by that are those who went through the same thing. Narcissistic abuse is not a joke. The fact that I more than likely got used and manipulated from the time she walked in that hospital when I was in some weird fucking coma. She more than likely said some things in that hospital when it was just her and I have no memory of what happened in there because I didn't even find out. I didn't even find out here till over the last year that I was awake through part of that. I have like 6-7 days of my life gone that I have no fucking memory. And the two memories I have, between one being what turned out to be a puke bag, was a single fucking. It's like this: sitting in a hospital bed. Here she is. And I remember looking towards the door and nobody else there. That's the memory. Her sitting next to me smiling. So that indicates to me that, well, if nobody was there and she's been doing what she's been doing to me, what did she say to me in that fucking hospital that would cause me to go off that led to my wife being barred from that hospital? I have a lot. I do have questions, and not so much where my wife's concerned, but more so where she's concerned, because now Yeah, I'm in love with a woman that doesn't exist. That I found out for the last 10, 12 years, the whole entire time it was fake. I was committed to somebody who had no commitment to me, who kept trying to push me into a marriage, knowing that their only goal was to fuck me over more. Either to fucking take me and drain me of everything and leave me for dead or something, but that was her goal. She did some really fucked up things and something really fucking sick that I never in my lifetime thought was possible. That I never thought she would do. Because I genuinely, even regardless of previous experiences with her, before getting back together, I always loved her. I always gave her benefit of a doubt. And the last 12 years of my life, I was with somebody that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, even though that they were abusing the shit out of me. Even when I didn't know that they were abusing me. I'm still in love with that woman. But I know I can't go back unless they were to genuinely go through and go back and correct what they did. The damages are not just mine to carry and to fix. Those damages are on her. Her actions are on her. And what I've learned through my experiences in life, and what I've learned from watching what other people have gone through in life, from the rich and famous, because their shit's aired out everywhere too. Friends and family. If you don't take accountability and responsibility for your actions, God will make sure that you take accountability and responsibility for your actions in another format. That's why I tell people I very much believe in God and karma. They're both very, very real. And both can be very good for you or very bad for you. But it's up to you to decide what you're getting out of it. No different than that guy who goes and robs a bank. He could have chose not to rob that bank to land himself in fucking prison. He could have chose to continue to go down the hard path and do the right thing. But instead he decided to take the alleyway, the short path, and it landed him in a bad spot, in a bad place, in a bad situation because he made a stupid decision. Whether it lands you up in a physical jail or a spiritual jail, you don't want to be in either place, even a mental jail. Because your choices are going to affect you in some form or not. And if they don't affect you in any way, then you need to realize that you're one cold fucking son of a bitch. And you don't need anybody in your life. Like, you're one of the few people who need to be alone. Because if you don't have any care, any remorse, anything like that, for what you do to somebody else that loved you, I'm not sure even God could help you.